In fact, they even pay more. When you are in Turkana and you want to buy salt, it could probably be even more expensive than when you're accessing it here in Nairobi.
Yeah, true.
So they're also paying taxes much as you are. Why can't we afford them the basics? Why can't we afford them the basic infrastructure, for example?
That classroom where the children were, those Turkana children, no, it was just a roof.
Yes, and you see where the problem is coming in.
And where the home they are going to is just a Makuti something, you know. That's home. And this is Kenya. That is home.
Yes, we cannot achieve nationhood, Mutegi. We cannot achieve nationhood if we want to leave some people so far behind. We cannot. We can't leave some people so far behind, suffering in poverty, and we want to pretend like we want to proceed with
last weekend, 2 MPs from Turkana,
yes,
who are protesting government, and they were saying nobody ate dog. When you saw those children and where they were going to, surely, if their mother got a dog to feed them, they would feed them. Because you saw the quality, the amount of poverty in that area.
Yeah.
It's excessive.
Absolutely.
And those MPs were trying to defend. Saying those people they're raising money and stealing it.
Of course, for them, they were protecting their dignity. Yeah. Of course, the reality is there's still a battle, especially looking at the rich and the poor in this country. And there's something perhaps you could respond to. This idea of public secondary schools are seen as very prestigious, such that parents take their children to private schools, and then once they get to standard 6 or 7, they're taken to public schools. So that when now they sit their exams, they pass, they're taken to public secondary schools. Perhaps you could respond to that. How do we handle that kind of situation?
For me, the buck cannot stop with anybody else. The buck can only stop with government. And when I read the Jubilee Manifesto, for me, I thought it was very promising for education in this country, because it was saying that when they come into government, they will encourage edupreneurs. They were calling them edupreneurs. These are education entrepreneurs, especially at the secondary school subsector. Why? Because there has been a lot of underinvestment in that subsector, because it is substantially expensive maybe to invest at the secondary level. So, but if we can have similar arrangements like what we have had for the primary schools, it can even ease the pressure. And that is why we are coming into asking how many steps have been made towards that direction in the first place. Because it is very unfair if we want to say that we are releasing 200,000 people who have just graduated from class 8, we have got nowhere to take them. I think that is not even the principle of the Basic Education Act in this country. Number 2, when I look at the current trend of the Ministry of Education to attempt to stifle the investors at the private, at the primary education sector, I feel like the Ministry of Education is not being guided. I wonder what policies they are implementing in the first place, because you cannot appear to be punishing success. You are discouraging investment. As we speak, even with the thriving private investment at primary level, we still have 1 million children out of school. Every other time you hear teacher union saying teachers are handling a class of 100. So I'm asking the same government, if you stifle or if you manage to destabilize the private sector investment, can you manage to educate all the children in this country that need education? The answer is no, you cannot manage. So I think here we can only go the PPP's way. We can only encourage the public-private partnerships, so that we can have more people investing at secondary level, so that we have somewhere to take these learners who the government cannot. It has admitted over 200,000 this year, last year, and every other year have not been accessing secondary school. Why? Because there are no opportunities. So I think the question here is about government. What are your priorities? What are you doing to address these urgent needs within the education sector? And the answer is, if the government is operating with emotions, that last year you only gave 46% of chances to private candidates, private school candidates. This year you only gave 25%. What messages are you sending? And you want to ask the same government. Last year the statistics were 200,000 learners did not make it to secondary school. This year 200 plus did not make it. That means there is no progress at the Ministry of Education, no progress at all. There is no expansion of secondary school opportunities. You wonder, What kind of performance contracts did these people sign, if there were any? If it is not about improving access, what else? What other performance contracts are these people signing? So I think we want to see more progress. We want to see something being done at the Ministry of Education, because clearly nothing seems to be moving. There is no new thinking in the Ministry of Education, no new strategies that are coming in. Because yes, the fiscal space remains as little. It is not expanding. So what do? We use our brains, we think, what new ideas can we bring in? Because all the students must, that is according to the Basic Education Act, must access education from 0 to 18 years. If this government wants to be called a responsible and a responsive government and an accountable government for that matter.
Many years ago, former Attorney General Charles Njonjo described the Ministry of Education as the corridors of confusion. You think it's still patent?
Well, with all this going on, I am sorry.
Confusion.
Yes.
Something, but you want to wonder. We have got new people. You know, at times we used to associate all this standstill to people who have served in Jogo for as long as they were employed. But we have a new minister, we have a new cabinet secretary, we have a new principal secretary. Why are we not seeing things moving? You don't even know whether there are cartels within the Ministry of Education who are anti-progress, because sometimes you get a new minister and then the advisors still remain the same. They have powers to even sabotage the Ministry of Education and ensure that nothing is moving. So we cannot rule out, and that is why we are saying we have no contract we have signed with the cabinet secretary ourselves. Yes, the president and the deputy president agreed to bring him on board. So I think our accountabilities lie with the president, because he is the one we voted for. He is the one who swore to defend the constitution of this country. We gave him our powers.
There's Charles Mwangi from Nairobi who says, I like your suggestions, but why don't you allow the president to save the poor parents to educate their children? Perhaps it's close to, have you engaged the ministry as Elimu?
Yes, we have indeed engaged the president through the cabinet secretary, and we have even written a memo to the president of this country. And I am glad that I had him respond through press and saying that requiring that the cabinet secretary sacks all head teachers, or disciplines of, actually carries out disciplinary action on all heads of schools that have increased fees. And that's where I'm telling you, probably he has not been advised accordingly. Is this another case of the president being misadvised? Because we have seen severally the president being misadvised. Because who is he going to sack? Then he's going to sack everybody, because all head teachers have increased school fees. What kind of advice? Who is advising the president on some of these very important issues? I want to tell you that education is very important, because it touches on every other family. And as we speak, there is an outcry. And I want to agree here that the outcry is more on secondary education, because we have the rich, the middle class, and the poor meeting there. That is why you hear the cry for secondary school is too much. At primary level, you don't have the rich and the middle class. We only have the poor attending the public education. And that is why the cry probably has not reached the president, because where does he interact with the poor, for example? But if you want to know where the cry is too much, it is at the primary level. It is at the primary level. The levies have come back, and that was not the spirit from 2003. And so many people, so many countries admired Kenya for introducing free primary education. It has been argued probably it was a wrong move. Many people even asking, was it even right to bring free primary education? But world over, levies are being done away with, because it is very advantageous for every child to access basic education. It has immense benefits. You will have mothers who know how to breastfeed their children, and so issues about nutrition. You will have mothers who know how to read prescriptions. So if you're talking about issues about HIV, about disease management, you're talking about issues of agriculture, basic education is very important. So when Mwai Kibaki came in 2003 and abolished school fees, it was admirable. Millions of children, I'm telling you, came back to school. Those that otherwise did not have hope of ever seeing the inside of a classroom, they came back. And those are the people we are talking about today. The levies have come back. Parents are paying thousands, 2,000, 3,000 for you to be able to access primary education in this country. I want to say that it is an issue of concern. And it may be something, you know sometimes the cries of the poor people don't get to the highest levels. And that is why you now see the president is even talking. I even saw bishops going to address the president on this matter. Why? Why this matter? Because it is putting the rich and the middle class and the poor in the same bracket. But that issue that touches purely on the poor, it has been neglected for long. Go to primary education and want to ask the president, a capitation of 1,020 shillings agreed on in 2003. Today, how many years down the line? It's a decade. Is it? It has not been revised upwards. How are those teachers surviving? An exercise book is supposed, they are given 70 shillings for books. Go today to a bookshop and attempt to buy a book. Each of those books, it's going 250, 250, 360. What can those things buy? And why we were telling the president humbly that yes, we welcome the laptop project. It can do a lot of work. But where are we as a country? Are we bringing everybody on board? Is this a matter of priority? Are these the issues that are resting in the hearts of Kenyans? The answer is no. There are children down there who need an opportunity to access a teacher. But they cannot. Why? Because you go to school, you're sent back, come back with 1,000, 2,000 to be admitted in this school. Those are the issues that we are faced with as a country. And there is nothing as bad as looking at a generation of illiterate people growing up. You have no reason as to why they didn't go to school, apart from simply neglecting and ignoring their rights as enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya. It is the right of every child to access free and compulsory education in this country. But that is not what the government is busy implementing. That is not what the government is implementing. And I want to say that it is an issue of concern, even with international communities. We cannot afford to slide back, because this has a lot of disadvantages and even drawbacks, even on the Millennium Development Goals. Go to the slums and you will, and that is why partly I disagree with this policy of quota system, because the government is operating from a misguided assumption that everybody who attends private schools is rich. That is not the issue. People are sacrificing to take their children to private schools. Why? The government should be busy finding out why all this fierce craze to take people to private schools, despite immense investment, because the education is the highest spender on our national budget. Despite all this investment, why are we not seeing returns? As opposed to government being busy doing that, it is busy training its eye on private schools.
If the government needs 80,000 teachers,
yes,
and they can only employ 10,000,
yes,
so you have a class in that school in the slum which has one teacher teaching 100 students, and the next academy, at the academy one teacher is teaching 40 students or that. So
serious
obviously, if I can afford to take my child to that academy next door and not where there are 100, I will go there. For once, I agreed with the teacher unions when they were telling the government, oh, so the problem we ever had in this country is not a lack of resources. If this country can afford to put a laptop on every child's hand who is joining class 1, those are millions of children, then we don't have a problem of money. Yes, we don't have a problem of money. The problem we have in this country is priority. Yes, that's the problem we have. But we don't have a shortage of money. If the government wants to employ enough teachers, I am sure it can. If the government wants to bring on board every other child, if the government wants to even triple the capitation at primary school, the government can do that today. It only takes goodwill. Like it took the President Mwai Kibaki to say, let there be free primary education. And surely there was, because of goodwill.
Many thanks indeed. We've received loads of your responses, people supporting what you've talked about. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much indeed. We'll have to stop there because of time, but thank you so much indeed for your comments. We'll be right back.